Hi, everybody. Mitch Tannenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today for this week's Security News Update. In the video section, we have a new video this week about a feature which is kind of cool. It's an Android feature that Google has released to enhance privacy. I'm sure this is a result of the many lawsuits they've been on the wrong side of, but nonetheless, it works for users. The feature is pretty well hidden, so if you don't know where to look, you're not likely to find it. In the Security and Privacy Alerts Department, experts say in testimony to Congress that U.S. phone and internet carriers are no more secure after the recent Chinese hacks than they were before. We are not prepared to undertake the actions needed to do so, or so they say. So this is after, Salt Typhoon compromised all kinds of things, and I guess we're just going to continue to let them do that. Delta, according to the court, has to face passenger lawsuits over the CrowdStrike meltdown last year. One plaintiff in the case missed a $10,000 cruise due to the meltdown, and Delta offered him $219. Sounds like fair compensation. And CISA says that an unsophisticated attack on energy and transportation worked due to weak cybersecurity. What's their solution? Telling these critical infrastructure folks to change the default passwords. Well, if that's all we need to do, then we're in good shape. In the CMMC section, let's see. Don't forget that not only do you have to comply with the requirements that come from your customer, but in addition to that, you have to make sure that anybody that you sub out to also complies. So it's an entire chain all the way top to bottom, and that can be a problem. If you need help with that, please let us know for sure. In the patches department, SonicWall is patching their SMA devices. This is different from an old bug that people also had not patched, but nonetheless, now it'd be a good time, I think, to make sure that you are patching everything. And then researchers are saying that the patch after the last Commvault bug actually didn't really fix anything. So, I guess they're going to try again. They haven't released a patch to this new complaint, as far as I know. And then Cisco follows in a string of 10s that they've gotten multiple ones of over the last year or two, three. This time it's an iOS XE, and the bug allows unauthorized remote attackers to run arbitrary code. What could be wrong with that? In the legislative and legals arena, France has fined Apple $162 million, and it's not because of a privacy tool that they're using. So their heart's probably not in the right place, but you can make a claim that their heart's in the right place. But the reality is that they're making things much harder for third parties to collect data than they are for themselves to collect data. So it's pretty transparent that this is an attempt to negatively impact users' use of third-party products, and the French understand that, and they're not happy with it. Apple, according to the courts now, has violated requirements to open up the App Store. This is the ongoing battle that they've been having for years with Epic Games. Apple wants 30% of Epic's revenue. Epic says they want to be able to process credit card transactions themselves. Supposedly, Apple says the 30% is for handling credit card transactions. Of course, everybody knows that credit card transactions only cost you like 2 or 3%. So the courts ruled years ago that Apple had to open up the App Store and let people process their own credit cards. So they said, well, we're going to charge you 27% to do that. And then if you add the 3% that the vendor has to pay their own credit card processor, well, people are not saving money. So the court is referring Apple to federal prosecutors for criminal prosecution. But given that Tim Cook has donated lots of money to the president and has visited his compound in Florida, will the DOJ do anything? Not at all clear. The jury has ordered the NSO spyware company to pay WhatsApp $168 million. NSO's defense is, well, we didn't have access to the data. Turns out that's a lie. The government made me do it or asked me to do it. Well, that's probably true. And the government actually did it. Well, that's not true either. So anyway, the jury didn't buy NSO's story. But this is a fight between two very large and rich companies, so I am sure it'll be appealed for a while. Florida is following in the president's orders. They are rooting out waste, fraud, and corruption. Florida Senate passed a bill called the Social Media Use by Minors Act. It was designed to protect minors from harmful content. Their heart was in the right place. However, their implementation was completely unconstitutional. So the way the Florida House decided to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse is they killed the bill. They put a spike in that little sucker and said, not going to go anywhere. So rather than spending millions of dollars defending a bill that would be turned out to pasture, they just said, we're not going to pass it. So good for the Florida legislature. I like it when they root out waste, fraud, and abuse. Under education, hackers are ramping up efforts targeting developers. This is a pretty low tech method, but apparently it works pretty good. What they're doing is they're looking in people's repositories and in their source code and then even in their apps and looking for hard-coded credentials. And apparently they're finding a lot of them. So, they find all kinds of things, in fact. So 20% of mobile apps, I said last week, contain secrets inside the app. That's one place. But you can also go look in the source code. So a lot of times that's in GitHub and places like that. The FBI is explaining how the Chinese are using AI to do a better job of swindling us. Isn't that wonderful? So, if you're interested in that, check that out. In the breaches department, the Harrods department store joins the club of UK businesses that got hacked this year. One is Harrods, another is Coop, who is now admitting that their breach is much worse than they first admitted. And the third is Marks and Spencer, the department store, and they've been wrestling with that breach for weeks and weeks now. So anyway, Harris says their crack security team is all over this, so we'll see whether that's true. HHS has settled with PAH Health for $600,000 for HIPAA violations. The OCR, the Office of Civil Rights, found that PIH failed to comply with several of the HIPAA requirements, including conducting a risk analysis and notifying individuals in the media within 60 days of a breach. Part of this resolution, PIH must implement a corrective action plan and train employees and stuff like that. And also, medical device giant Massimo is hit by a cyber attack. They said that the company's facilities have been operating at less than normal levels. Is zero less than normal? I guess it is. I don't know. They're not saying. But he did mention the attack. The CEO did mention the attack in this week's company earnings call. I'm sure we'll learn more about this later. The billions of Apple devices are at risk from Airborne, which is a family of vulnerabilities that affects the entire family of Apple devices. But more importantly, it also affects third-party products that connect to Apple devices over the air. So Apple has released some patches for this, and they've released patches that third parties can use to go fix their software, whether third parties actually fix their software, whether those patches actually get deployed, whether there's even a way to deploy the patches to third-party devices. A lot of that's unclear. So if you're an Apple user and you use third-party devices, this is of particular importance to you. Lawmakers grilled Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, last week, assistant funding cuts, and they're demanding a mythical Trump cyber plan. So I guess the administration is going to have to develop one of those. The Homeland Security solution is to fire half of CISA and cut funding by $500 million. Neither the Republicans nor the Democrats in Congress seem to particularly believe this is a good solution, but we'll see what happens or whether they actually do anything. And in general, Fed cybersecurity is a dumpster fire. Many of these are self-inflicted. This one is, cabinet members and other government officials are using a Signal clone app that copies the text messages to a government computer. Unfortunately, there's zero security around that, and all the data has been compromised, and some of it's even been published. That includes data and credentials. The security news bites, there's a whole scam going on right now with wrong number text messages. That's a great way to get you to engage and hopefully do things you shouldn't do. Real ID, the misgotten concept of a national government database of driver's license information that's been lurking for about 20 years, is now real. And in theory, if you go to the airport and don't have a real ID compliant ID, you're going to get hassled by TSA, and possibly at some point in time, they actually won't let you get on a plane or enter federal office buildings. People are learning the hard way why paying a ransom is not a good idea. Google, on the other hand, is rolling out a really nifty on-device AI protection to detect scams and warn you about them. And Real ID, not only is it too little too late, but it's also a great bullseye for every hacker. And I am sure that the government will totally protect the Real ID data. Never happened in the past, but probably will happen this time. Sure, we'll go with that. Finally, if there have been multiple stories this week about failed business continuity disaster recovery strategies. Marks and Spencer is one that comes to mind. Are you confident that your strategy is in good shape and that if you had a major incident that you'd be able to execute your disaster recovery business continuity plan and it would work for you? If not, give us a holler. We'll be happy to help you with it. Until next time, thanks for listening and stay safe.